Hello there, friends. This is Robert Hatton. This is The Encourager. Yesterday, we read the story of Jesus and how he multiplied 5 loaves of bread so that he could feed 4,000 people. These people were not just any old people; they were all Gentiles. They were people who didn't belong to the people of Israel. Now, after he'd done that, he left the crowd. He got into a boat and he sailed to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, which was Galilee, where he'd left there. And when he got there, he was met by a group of Pharisees. And it looks like they were waiting for him. I don't know how they knew that he was coming there, but they were waiting for him. And they went to him and they said, "Give us a sign from heaven. Show us something that will prove that you are the Messiah." And when you read that and you hear that and just think about everything that happened, your immediate reaction must be, "Guys, you must be joking." But they weren't joking. Jesus, we'd seen that from chapter 1 and verse 1 right up into chapter 7. Jesus had spent time in Galilee. That was about 21 months he was there in Galilee, and nearly every day he did something that proved that he was the Messiah. He healed people, he delivered people, he cleansed the lepers, he raised the dead. Sometimes he just spoke a word and people were touched and something changed in their lives. He opened the eyes of the blind, he opened the eyes of the deaf. He quietly calmed the storm. He fed nearly 20,000 people at one time. He was doing these signs all the time. You must be joking. You must be joking. But they weren't joking. And Jesus didn't think it was funny either. The Bible says he sighed deeply in his spirit. He didn't answer them. He just turned around, got back in the boat, and they sailed back to the other side of the lake, back into Decapolis, back into this land of the Gentiles. While they were traveling back still on the water, he said to his disciples, he said, "Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and the yeast of Herod." Now, they had forgotten to take any bread with them, so they had nothing to eat for this journey. Maybe that was because Jesus was only in Galilee for maybe a few minutes, and they went back, but they didn't have any bread. And when Jesus started talking about yeast, they had a bad conscience, and they mumbled amongst themselves, says, "Because we've forgotten the bread." That's what he's telling us. But Jesus must just shook his head. He said, "Yeah, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is that you know what yeast is. When you're baking bread, you add just a little bit of yeast, and the yeast changes everything. The yeast touches everything. It changes everything." And he's saying, the Pharisees, they are so religious, but this religion is actually detrimental. This religion will make the bread rotten. What Jesus has done, he's come to give us the bread of life. He's come to give us food that will sustain us in a spiritual way. He's come to give us new life. But if you take on this yeast of the Pharisees and add this to the bread, it will contaminate all the mixture that's being baked, and will change it completely. Now, this yeast, this contamination, it was a religion. It was a religion of hypocrisy. It was a religion of legalism, putting laws and regulations on the shoulders of people, but that they could never keep. And then at the same time having an elitist spirit, thinking we are better than these people. And Herod's yeast was this compromising political spirit of appeasing the Romans for the sake of getting something politically better out for the Jews. But this was a compromise. This wasn't sincere. And Jesus said, be careful, because just a little bit of this, just a little bit of self-righteousness in the new life that Jesus gives will spoil everything. We are completely 100% dependent upon Jesus for our righteousness, for our standing with God and being reconciled to God. But that's what Jesus brought. He brought a reconciliation with the Father in heaven, not just for the Jewish people, but also for the Gentiles, for all people. And these are the two miracles of the multiplication of the bread. 12 baskets were left over, symbolic for the people, the Jewish people. 5 baskets were left over, symbolic for the nations of this world. According to the Pharisees, this was incompatible. Gentiles and Jews could never come together in one unit. But we see this is a work that Jesus brought to bring reconciliation between men and God and reconciliation between men and men. So God bless you, dear friends. Have a good day. Your encourager, your Robert Hatton.